Why howdy. These days when I think of crowdfunding campaigns and music gear combined, I usually imagine things like this, or this, or this. Generally this. Honestly, that's a pretty big bummer because 10 years ago when Kickstarter first became a thing, I was actually pretty optimistic about it. I actually thought that across the board it would put innovative minds at a competitive level with big companies, which would push technology forward even faster, but in a more inclusive way. But instead, we got this Bluetooth water bottle, or alternatively, something like this Bluetooth water bottle. Some people did actually get a little bit more creative and made things like this Bluetooth water bottle, which ended up inspiring this Bluetooth water bottle. Okay, seriously though, to be fair, there are some diamonds in the rough. In 2014, two brothers from Austin, Texas, Jacques and Davis Saltzgiver, made a crowdfunding campaign that basically changed the way that we think about Bluetooth water bottles. Jacques and Davis Saltzgiver's radical take on Bluetooth water bottles had an ergonomic spout, unlike this Bluetooth water bottle, which looks like something that only losers would buy. Or can you even imagine showing up to your Orange Theory class sipping out of a Bluetooth water bottle with the spout as unergonomic as this one? All right, so why am I talking about crowdfunding campaigns anyway? I'll tell you why. It's because the Mod Duo was initially a successfully funded Kickstarter campaign that had some pretty ambitious and huge promises. It promised to be an open platform, extremely customizable, extremely powerful multi-effects pedal that would take on products that cost 3 times as much. And refreshingly, it delivered on all of those promises. So what do I have with me here? A Mod Duo X, which is a soon-to-be-released desktop version of the Mod Duo that is apparently 4 times as powerful. So the big question that I will hopefully be answering today, can the massive increase in CPU power and memory combined with the Mod Duo X's ability to load open platform LV2 plugins make this once multi-effects pedal a virtual modular workstation or a functional analog sounding desktop synthesizer? Well, I'm not sure if this was the intention or a happy accident or some sort of gray area between the two, but from my impression, the Mod Duo X really feels like the perfect middle ground between an analog device that's easy to manipulate and a laptop. I don't know if I've specifically mentioned this on this channel before, but for like the last 15 years, all of the performances that I played as a flashbulb, I didn't use a laptop on stage because I just don't typically like having a screen in front of me. I like having sort of hardware style interfaces where I could interact with the music in real time. And so within the first couple minutes of playing with the Mod Duo X, I immediately thought to myself, oh my God, this will be perfect for, oh yeah, I don't have any shows coming up because of 5G, which reminds me to put some 5G barrier cream on my hands. To better explain why this thing's so unique, I'm going to just use the Mod Duo multi-effects pedal as an example. When a company like Boss or Line 6 or Axe Effects releases a flagship multi-effects unit, they're basically giving you a whole bunch of little tools and you could make your own little presets with it, and it's all within that sort of closed ecosystem. Mod's approach to this, on the other hand, they give you a bunch of tools to work with, but it's open platform, so the entire community can contribute new tools to make patches with, and you could just sort of end up with an infinite amount of things. So can we use the Mod Duo X as an extremely customizable and powerful multi-effects unit? Yes. How about a looper? Yes. How about a subtractive synthesizer? Yes. MIDI filter? Yes. MIDI sequencer? Yes. CV and gate sequencer? Yes. MIDI to CV gate converter? Actually, yeah. Here, how about this? To quickly demonstrate how powerful this is, I'm going to take Dexed, which is an open source, extremely accurate Yamaha DX7 emulator, and it could even load the original ROM carts. And I'm gonna put it right inside this guy, or girl. I'll also have a little MIDI file player inside the Duo X, which will play some notes into the Yamaha DX7 emulator, and I will patch some deep perimeters inside that FM synth algorithm to these knobs and buttons here. So if you've been biding your time hanging out at Goodwill stores and thrift stores looking for a Yamaha DX7, also keep your eyes peeled for one of these, although I don't think you'll find one considering that it's not publicly released yet. Speaking of the Mod Duo X not shipping yet, at the time of me making this video, it is still in beta. And normally I would say something like that as a excuse or consideration for a company that sent me a pre-release product for any problems I ran into, but this thing's rock solid. I didn't run into any problems. I swear to God, I live in the flying insect capital of the world. Okay, so this is something that kind of blew my mind. It's really clever. The interface to edit patches on this is actually a web interface, and you connect directly to the Mod Duo X as a network device, either via USB connection or an Ethernet port that's on the back of here. So rather than them developing, beta testing, and maintaining drivers and executable files from everything from Windows to Mac OS to iOS to Android to Linux and so on, you can edit presets in literally anything that can have a web browser on it. With the Windows and Linux machines in my studio and my Windows laptop, it worked seamlessly. I mean, plug and play. The only place where I had issues was with an iPad, but to be fair, the only thing that an iPad reliably does is have issues with any piece of hardware that you plug into it. Honestly, the fact that I was able to access a preset editor through a network device that was connected to an iPad through a USB to USB-C adapter in the first place is a huge accolade to the developers. But with a lot of seemingly random types of troubleshooting, it will eventually work with an iPad Pro through the Chrome browser. But let's look at the interface using a laptop, because I don't feel like going through that again. All right, so this obviously is the Mod Duo X. These are all assignable knobs and buttons. These two are endless. These two are end full. Buttons down here, 2 outputs, 2 inputs, an expression or CV input, or a headphone or CV output. First, I'm just going to show you how the Mod Duo works traditionally. This is a pedal that is just a stereo gain pedal. It's just going to give us some volume control, and I'm going to patch input 1 to the left and the right, and then I should have a signal from this guitar. Might want to turn the guitar up. All right, so let's go gear shopping here. These are various plugins and pedals and basic things that we could load into our overall session up here. And so you may notice some beta ones that are kind of ugly looking. Ignore those, they're not finished yet. I'm just gonna choose a preamp that's called Red Eye Vibro, and then I'm going to use a vintage cabinet. And if I zoom in, I can actually pick the cabinet. Let's just go with like a London 4x12, and then I should have, yeah, I can get a lot of options here as well. Before I go any further into here, I'd like to choose a reverb pedal. Let's just use a stereo plate, and here is a pretty basic setup. So let's just use common sense with the wiring it up. Input 1, where my guitar is, goes into the preamp, that goes into the cab goes into the left right of the reverb goes left right into the left right of the overall stereo gain, and then we should have a ooh, that sounds pretty ugly. Let's turn that gain and tone down. You know, let's put a flanger right before that reverb. Ooh, nice, this is stereo too. So input. All right, so here's our little effects chain. It has a really nice organic tone. These things can get crazy pretty fast. This is a harmonizer, for example. So when you look at all these pedals, it could get really powerful really fast. And if you're interested in more guitar stuff, Definitely look up more stuff on the Mod Duo, because that is the 4-board multi-effects version of the Mod Duo X, which is the desktop version, which is 4 times as powerful and can do a whole lot more than this. All right, so we're starting from scratch here. I actually have a Microfreak hooked up to the Mod Duo X via USB. Plug and play, I didn't configure anything, and it's actually powering the Microfreak. And now we just need something to control. So we can click generator here, and just for ease of demonstration, let's choose the TAL Noisemaker plugin, and I'm gonna go out left, out right, and then over here, this is my MIDI in, that's going to go in here. And so without any additional patching, I'm just gonna press a key on the Microfreak and see if this works. It does. All right, remember that all of these sounds are coming from the Mod Duo X. Nothing's coming from my computer right now. All right, I patched a nice shimmer effect to the end of this. All right, so modular stuff. I'm going to go into control voltage over here, and you're going to see a lot of beta stuff, unfortunately, so it's going to be a little crazy. Basic subtractive synth stuff, like that's a VCF, a filter. Here is a VCO, an oscillator, a linear VCA, which is an amplifier that is controllable by control voltage. And here, maybe I could find a MIDI to CV, I'm sure. There it is, MIDI to CV monomod. An LFO would come in handy, and of course, an ADSR. All right, I feel like I've just done this subtractive synth setup so many times on this channel, but I feel like I haven't done it in like a year, so it's kind of fun. All right, so this is MIDI to the CV converter. The CV pitch will go to the frequency of the VCO. The gate will go to the envelope. It will trigger that envelope, and that envelope will, let's make it a envelope for the VCA, for the amplifier. So we can pop it in there. We can have the LFO control the frequency of the cutoff. And then, of course, the oscillator is going to want to go out into the input of the VCA. The VCA is going to want to go out into our main output. And there you go. We also have pulse width control on this VCO. For some reason, plugging the LFO into the exponential FM is actually more powerful than the frequency modulation input of the cutoff. I don't know why, but whatever, I'll live with it. All right, so one last tidbit. When I first looked at this LFO, or a lot of these things, I thought to myself, why the hell does it not have an input? Well, there is a pretty clever way to get around those situations in this environment, and I'm gonna have another LFO here. Let's make it a super slow sine wave LFO, and I'm gonna go manage CV ports up here. I'm going to click this one. We can just leave that as the name, or we could just name it, I don't know, Danny. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Hey, Danny. All right, now I'm going to open up the configuration of this LFO, and the frequency is going to be controlled by CV, and that is going to be Danny. I'm going to make Danny really slow here, and he will control the LFO speed. And of course we could bring this to ridiculous levels with audio rate modulation, and now I actually have some controls up here to mess with that. All right, I realize a lot of you are not big fans of fart sounds, so here's just a analog pad controlled by MIDI. All right, you know what? Here's that same analog synth pad with a modular patch going on, with a full sequence going on with drums, and then I could just press this button to start it. And to show you how easy it is to map a button natively to the interface of this thing, I'm just going to click this little cog wheel here, the VCF frequency, that's filter frequency, basically the cutoff. I am going to click device. I'm going to click, let's see, knob 5 looks good, and saved. And we're done now. And now we can, throughout our track, control that perimeter. All right, so trying to push this as far as it goes, this is a little drum sequence. It is a little chord sequence that's running through a DX10 emulator, and then my guitar is coming in. It's going through its own little like guitar effects. I have this really Joe Satriani distortion that I've dialed in with this here button. Then these two buttons here actually arm and reset loop points from a little looper pedal on here that only play it at certain times. It basically takes a rest and then plays it again until I reset it. Let's try the looper. I kind of instinctively want to treat this like a review, but I feel like there's no need for one considering the ease of use and versatility that you probably just witnessed. The unit has more power and memory than I had expected, and I actually had to try to reach the upper limit of that power and memory. More importantly, the software development is really tight. That seems like a very contemporary or hip way of describing it, but what I'm trying to say is that it seems coded very well and that the software and hardware synchronization is very efficient or tight. You know what? Let's dish out some awards. The Mod Duo X is the third best thing to have ever been either directly or indirectly developed as part of an old Kickstarter campaign. It's the bronze medal. Of course, silver, or the second, would obviously be the Oculus line of products, and the first, the gold medalist, of course, would obviously be this solar-powered Bluetooth water bottle. If you're new to this synth patching stuff, fear not. I will most likely be doing some Mod Duo X tutorials, and I will have them linked in the description when that time comes. In the meantime, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if there's anything you want me to cover in the future, let me know in the comments. If you want to support my music or support this channel, I have like 23 hours of music on Bandcamp. And of course, there's a link in the description where you can also find my Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and Spotify links and all that stuff. And I post a lot of music, techie, and outdoorsy content. I also post a lot of Lucy content, and I'm giving her a cameo here because she hasn't barked throughout this entire recording. Bye.